Hello guys, Matt here with Through Gamer Goggles, gamer-goggles.com, and today we're going to talk about the 5th book in the Coalition War series, and that is The Shadows of Evil. This book is a little bit different, but before we go any farther, if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes, and if you see me drinking coffee, I just wish you were drinking it with me. I was in San Francisco yesterday, had like a 4-hour delay, and I left at 1 o'clock their time, and I got back at about 3 a.m. and I had 3 hours of sleep, and I've not been able to go back to sleep since. But I really want to get this done and up for you guys tonight so that I can start getting back on track of posting stuff on a regular basis on Thursdays. My commitment to you is strong. Oh, and please, in the link below, well, not in the link below, May 11th, my Kickstarter for Season 8 is going to start. Check it out. It's not open to the public yet, but come back, visit me, like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. Please share. Definitely share. That's the important part. I would like to hit. Anyway, that's a different video. Anyway, Shadows of Evil. Book's a little bit different than the other books in the Coalition series. I said that about the last book too, which was Sorcerer's Revenge. There was a lot. Actually, the last couple books were really a little bit different. They weren't as much storyline. And this book, this review, is going to be a little bit more review-esque. I'm going to skirt what's in the book. I'm not going to show you a lot of pictures. There are some cool pictures in here. As usual, the art is pretty good. I'm not going to say the book was rushed or anything like that, but it's a very different flavor. The book was written, or historically takes place, at the height of the highest point. I have not been able to change that saying since I started to say it, of Tolkien's morale. But there are some other things that are going on here. The mercenaries are getting ready to leave and flee. Not flee per se, but Tolkien is slow to pay. And some of the mercenaries don't like the fact that they're fighting alongside demons and monsters. So some of the mercenaries lean a little bit more towards the Coalition than towards Tolkien. Anyway, so they're upset about a lot of things, basically. So on top of that, many people within Tolkien think that they've kicked the Coalition's butt, and they decide that I'm not a warrior. I don't need to stay here anymore. I'm going home to my farm. Or I'm going home to my seamstress shop, or whatever they might have going on because they're not warriors. So this book really focuses a lot on the war-torn world where the war was fought. It talks about Skelebot graveyards and different types of danger zones within basically Minnesota. That book mostly takes place in Minnesota, and it got all kinds of rules for random encounters and things like that. More so than any book before it, this is really a playground. It's a sandbox for you to generate hundreds, if not thousands, of adventures in the area of, let's see if there's a big map, Mizarine, or the Barrens. I mean, it's broad enough that it could be all the Barrens, but it really focuses on the area of, like, just northeast of Iowa in our world, which is kind of the Minnesota Badlands in riffs. The Minnesota Baronies, there's basically 5 of them. So here is, let's see here. So I don't know how well you're going to see that. I'm going to hold it as best I can for you. And you can see the hatched, the thatch marks. That's the area that most of the book takes place in. They introduce all kinds of things. They introduce prison camps, and prison camps basically are these areas. They're prison camps. There's some good storyline in the prison camps at the end of the book. But basically the prison camps work like this. If you're a juicer or a crazy special forces or, you know, some just regular grunt, you're part of the human population. If you start getting into things beyond that, you're not necessarily part of the general population, which I thought was rather interesting that Tolkien didn't consider these guys, some of these guys' threats that are mentioned here. And basically, I think when I read the stuff about prison camps, I kind of got the was it 1950? It might have been a 1940s movie. It was Steve McQueen, The Great Escape. I kind of got the feel of we're working together to get out of here. And basically, the way the general population works between the relationship between the guards and the prisoners is the more favorable your behavior is, the more favorable you're treated. That's the basics of it. Another good section of the book is about the freebooters, which is basically gangs that Tolkien allows to do what they want to do. They kind of operate above the law. If they decide that this group of people is wrong, they deal with them however they want to deal with them. And those guys start on page 60 of the 110-ish page book. 61, I think, actually. Let me verify. Oh no, that's the Prisoners of War. My bad. That's the POW camps. Anyway, the freebooters are a good section of the book, and there's a couple. They go into detail about a couple of them, and one of them is the White Knights, and they're run by Lady White. Who is it? Lady White? I wrote down Lady White. Let me verify that real quick. I wrote down Lady White, and she's a fallen cyber knight, which is really cool because in one of the previous books, I said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if they did more with fallen cyber knights? And they did. And they did it actually within the Coalition War, which is not when I expected it or not what I requested. I mean, the Coalition War's been around a while. But, so Freebooters, page 73, is Lady White. And she's a fallen cyber knight, and basically these guys, from what I remember reading about them, they kind of lean much more towards not shooting people. Or I mean, not shooting people, as in they like hand-to-hand combat. That doesn't mean that they're not ruthless. These guys kind of have actually all of the freebooters kind of have that vigilante outlaw feel of, yeah, we don't necessarily follow the law, and we don't necessarily have to motif. At least that was my interpretation while reading it. And then there's a couple other groups, and I'm missing a page of notes, so I'm on my own. But basically, you know, they talk about let's see, the Hounds of Hell, and the Hounds of Hell are really kind of cool if you are a GM who has a group of guys playing the Coalition. You want the Hounds of Hell in an adventure because they basically have a vendetta against anybody that's Coalition. The prison camps, I'm not going to talk too much about them. They kind of give you a World War II-esque can't remember the word. We'll say Schindler's List kind of feel and effect. There are some death camps where people are being put to death in mass quantities. Oh, Hounds of Hell, here you go. Check that guy out. They're just cool looking. I could see that guy on a motorcycle. And then in the back, it goes into the other baronies a little bit. It's a much shorter portion of the book. Oh, where is... And at the very back they have Camp Glory. I'm not going to get into the stories. They have Death Camp Grace. They go into a bunch of stuff about the death camps, but it's really brief. The fiction is there basically to fuel your storylines. And that's one of the things I like about this book, is the fact that... Let me back up. Here's what's bad about it. When I first started reading the book, I thought that it didn't have its place in the Coalition War. Because to me, the Coalition War started off as a story, and then it moved into 2, 2 or 3 kind of sandboxy kind of books that are almost like GM's books. And this is very much a book for the game master, not really so much for the players. And I think that's actually one of its great strengths. And one thing that I think the Rifts books do really well is they give you the information you need to make your own adventure. They don't just give you a plot, or they don't give you an adventure book that follows a storyline of levels X to X. You could easily write a book out of this book that starts off Coalition characters at level 1 and takes them all the way up to like level 10 if you wanted as a GM. There'd be no issues with that at all. Outside of that, it is very sandboxy. I wouldn't say it's light reading. I'd say it's pretty heavy, and they do a good job of doing the things with Shadows of Evil, since it is whoa! I almost fell off my chair. Since it is evil, that I think most publishers don't necessarily do. They give you a lot of grit, and they capitalize on giving you that grit because they leave the level of grit pretty much up to you. They kind of skirted around it in such a way that they touch upon it enough that you're going to want maybe to explore it a little bit more. But they do it in such a way that they're also politically correct. They don't, come out and you don't feel like one group or the other group within Rifts is being discriminated against. I mean, it's clear that the prisoners are there to be prisoners, but all of the treatment and stuff is pretty much left up to you. They don't talk too much about things like, oh, this group of people is down on the low end because of that and whatnot. No, they really want to give you the feel of oppression. So the prisoners of war are being oppressed, the freebooters are oppressing people, and they have this higher than normal citizenship type of stature, and they just go about and pretty much do whatever they want. The other thing that's really big, a big portion of the book is just about the different areas of the war zones where you can have countless adventures for your players to encounter. I mean, they give you ideas of these different traps and gun nests and Skelebot graveyards and how dangerous they can be, and you basically, it's countless what you can do with that. So this book, more than I think the previous ones, I know I said that like once or twice already, but more so, is even more sandboxy and open to that. If you're trying to read the storyline, this book doesn't have as much storyline, nearly as much storyline as like the first 2 books did. You still get some good story and add on to some of the things that happen, and you can see how it's leading up to book 6. Now, with that said, guys, what do I think about it? It's got a price tag of $16.95. I think it's primarily a book for GMs, not necessarily needed for players. There's some good stuff in here for GMs that want to do stuff with Tolkien. If you're leaning more towards the Coalition, there's not a lot of like equipment and stuff, but there's a lot of ideas. If you're looking for making your own kind of prison, it's a good reference book for what they've already done within Rifts, so you can get an idea of some of the stuff that they have done and kind of modify it to your own. So like if you want to make an Azkaban, you can kind of get this and get some ideas as to how prisoners might be treated. I think they did a good job with that. I think maybe the book was a little bit light compared to some of the other books, but that's okay because they give you a ton of material to grow upon. And I think that's one of the things that is actually a strength of the book and not a weakness. It was an easy read. I read it in about a night, couple 3 hours. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.